Okay, hello friends. Right, so today I am going to try and take you through what to do before you send a mix to a client. And it's not like a really extensive list of things. It's just a couple things, a couple fail safes to make sure that just pointless questions aren't being asked about the mix and people can just listen to the mix. So, first things first, make sure it's limited. People just don't get music that's not as loud as their as the music they're normally listening to. So they're trying to give you notes and they're having to turn their music up a load, and it just doesn't make any sense. So here's a mix. I'm going to go to that song that we had in one of the last videos. So I'm super happy with the mix. That's all good, but it's not loud enough. It's it's not super quiet or anything, but it's not loud enough. So what we're going to do is we're going to give it a quick limit. I'm not going to boost the level here because that would just be inconsistent and annoying. So yeah, that's the first thing. Give it a limit. Delay. So yeah, you don't want to crush the living daylights out of it or anything, but you want to make sure it's, loud enough, comparable to stuff that other people are listening to. So the second thing I like to do a lot of is, if it's not already on my mix bus, a trick I like to do is something as a multiband trick, and what it basically does is it really focuses the mid-range. So these are fairly arbitrary things. I'm using the FabFilter Pro MB because I like it. So you basically want to go from somewhere around 100 to 200 to about 1K, and then from 1K up to about 10K. So you don't want any of the kind of crazy high-end stuff. You don't want any of the crazy low-end stuff. You're basically just focusing the mid-range. And what you're going to do is you're going to compress both of those bands independently, obviously, multi-band compressor. You can do it medium attack, medium release, 3-to-1 ratio, looking for about 3 dB of gain reduction, give or take, kind of got to figure out what you like. So I'm just going to quickly set that up on both of these. 3 dB, 3-to-1 ratio rather. And then yeah, what this does is it stops things maybe poking out on some mid-rangey focused speakers that maybe you hadn't accounted for. Again, it's another failsafe. It doesn't have to stay there when it goes off for mastering, but it's a really good kind of failsafe. I've said it a million times. That's kind of what this is. It's to make sure that there's nothing distracting from your mix. It's kind of a key point when you're sending off a mix to get assessed by a client or someone, is that it's not distracting and awful. Well, in theory, your mix shouldn't be awful anyway, but you know what I mean. You know where I'm going with. So, let's listen to this in and out. Let's go from that chorus again. Yeah, all it does is it tames any lumpy bits, any maybe snare or bass stuff that you haven't quite figured out because your room's not acoustically perfect or anything like that. Any high-end bits, your whistles and whatever, or bright parts that maybe haven't been totally accounted for because, again, your room's not perfect, your monitoring's not perfect, whatever. It just kind of evens the mid-range out, pushes it to the front because obviously it's compression, and it'll even out any discrepancies between another pro mix and what you've mixed. Right, so it's that stage. Less essential than the limiting, but still really useful. So, stage the third. Now this one, give or take, you could probably do this with your own ears, but I like Match EQ, so I'm just gonna go for it. But if you've got a client that's got a really specific idea of what they want their songs to sound like, I just don't think it hurts to bring in a Match EQ to kind of line up what needs matching, what they've kind of based their music on. It just seems smart to me. So here's a track. Excuse me. Here's a track that is not relevant to the mix here, but I'm just going to go through the process of Match EQ in this FabFilter plugin, just in case any of you aren't aware of how to do it. You just set up your track that you're referencing, send it, use the keychain input, or key input. Make sure that lines up with the bus you're using, 61, 61, 62. And then we're going to do an EQ match. I'm going to hit play. It says that we're going to hit play. That was a bad section because it didn't have any vocals. So let's go back to that chorus. Let's start this process again. So what you want to do is you want to have it on the side chain, which is the same as the key input. And basically the red part is the mix on the side chain or the key input, and then the normal metering, the normal analyzer is your mix. And then this white line here is the difference. So yeah, let's start this again. So yeah, once you've done that, got a profile. Sometimes you need to be wary about the volume you're pumping into it, because sometimes it will just make an EQ curve that kind of is changing it, but also just making everything quieter. So try and get them, at least loosely speaking, level matched. But then hit the match button, it will come up with a curve, and you can kind of change how intense the curve is or how basic the curve is. What was it, at 6? That seems fine. So you hit finish, match the EQ. I usually think it's too drastic, so I tend to even it out. And then this mix isn't relevant, but I'll play it. This thing I'm referencing isn't exactly relevant, but I'll play it anyway. Yeah, sounds different, not necessarily better. Like I said, this mix isn't totally relevant. But yeah, that's one to do, like I said earlier, specifically if you've got a track that they're really aiming to try and match, if there's a really big influence on this specific track. Again, it's not something you have to keep. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So it's definitely the least important of the tricks, but it can really help your client or whoever you're sending this to appreciate the mix better if it's sitting in the same kind of frequency space as the songs that they're giving you as a reference point. They're more likely to like it. So, little hack. Yeah. So, hopefully this has been useful. Try some of these or all of these or one of these out. Definitely the limiting thing. Just make sure it's roughly the same volume as the Pro Mix. Because if nothing else, it will also highlight if there are any problems. If your low end's out of whack, it'll be pumping and going mental. If it'll bring up things that maybe weren't as loud if your gain structure is really wonky and you're trying to what am I trying to say? If your gain structure is really wonky and you're bringing up the level a lot to make it competitive, it will just highlight things that maybe you didn't realise because things weren't as loud. Anyway, hope that's been useful. Peace out.